Okay, I'm plugged in.
All right, we're recording in progress. We'll start it off here, Ron. It's awesome to see you, man. We're starting to have a conversation a little bit before the record button. We're like, just hit the record button and we'll just get it all on here. So it's awesome to see you again, man. Awesome to talk to you. You're looking good.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation. It's funny. The world is going crazy right now. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden I'll feel like, man, I need to start talking to people and start getting some more stuff out there and, keep the energy flowing in a good way. So I appreciate you having this conversation with me, man.
Yeah, thanks for recording it and putting it up because, a lot of people right now are so isolated, and not just because of the current situation with this whole thing that's going on, but also with technology. I've been watching some stuff that's really showing that people are so hooked into their phones and social media and YouTube and Facebook that in order for us to get a message out and coordinate, we have to do videos like this. That's what the mass media does with all their news broadcasts. They get everybody hooked into the news so that they can deliver their message into the minds of the people. So we got to work together and spread good information that we can use to have a better life instead of being destroyed by these corporations that are posing as government.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I wanted to talk again with you a little bit about. I just got finished reading a book called it's called Occult Secrets: The Hidden Meaning of Words by a guy named Peo Chang. And he did a great job describing, I mean, you do too in your book, and I got your book right here, by the way, The Solution.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. In fact, did I email you the documents yet?
I got them, and I need to do it. And especially after reading Peo Chang's book, I'm like, what am I sitting around waiting for? Because really, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about this too, was I don't think people really understand that they are a legal fiction, meaning that in the eyes of the government, the United States Corporation, that we are all dead entities. In order for their legality system to work, everyone has to be dead. Like we are treated and we're looked upon as being a fictional character. So a fictional character means a dead character. And that's how they deal with us and get away with what they deal with, right? Is that we are legal fictions, dead entities.
It's okay. Everybody has to look at it from, this is all business, okay? You have to look at it from, this is business and contracting. So what happened is, we're not so much as dead entities as much as our name has been securitized and turned into a corporation. And a corporation is a dead entity. It can't do anything on its own. And it needs a living soul, us, to sign paperwork or contracts on behalf of the corporation. So when you're born, you, the living soul, are this surety or collateral against a birth certificate bond that has been created and signed by a doctor and sent to the vital statistics office, and it's printed up on bond paper. It's a negotiable instrument. It is a security bond that you, the living soul, are the collateral of. So when you're dragged into court and you're forced to sign documents, they're not calling in you, Logan Henderson, as the thing. You're not a dead person in there. You're a living soul who has been converted to a citizen by some contract you unwittingly were put into. And then you're there in court really as collateral over this bond, this birth certificate bond that the state in which you were born holds at the vital statistics office. So it's all contracting. When you go into a court, you're not even really in a court. You're in an administration center dressed up to look like a court, and the judge is sitting up there off of the level playing field in a booth. Everybody around you is putting on a play, and you're there just to plea bargain on how much you're going to give to the court. And I recommend, if you go into court and they want you to plead guilty or not guilty, plea $1. And they're going to yell at you, you can't plead $1, it's guilty or not guilty. Oh, really, judge? Are you trying to tell me how to represent myself or practice the law? Are you practicing law from behind the bench? I plea $1, because they just want to get money out of you, or so-called money. It's not even money, it's debt instruments, Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah, notes, exactly, IOUs.
So that book, yeah, it is an IOU, because you can't redeem, I guess you could go buy gold and silver, but you can't redeem those Federal Reserve notes. I'm drinking water. I've been drinking a lot of water since I've been fasting, but you can't redeem those Federal Reserve notes with the Treasury for gold and silver. They're a debt instrument. They only represent the faith and spirit of the citizens of the United States, which I think we're losing our faith and spirit over this. And a lot of people don't understand that there's a big difference between the United States of America, a corporation, and the United States, a series of countries that are governed that we call states. The US of A Corporation in Washington, the District of Columbia, has zero jurisdiction inside the United States other than what we give them.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
presidents of the United States of America, like Biden, Trump, they can't tell the governor what to do, because the governor is really the leader of these countries that have separate borders, statutes, and codes. And but we've been programmed by the mass media to think that the United States of America is our government. And we put our hand over our heart for their corporate theme song and their corporate symbol, you know, the American flag and the national anthem. Those are theme songs and a corporate logo, and you've been brainwashed, not you specifically, but the masses. And you grew up the same way as I did, getting brainwashed into this rhetoric.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. It's caused so much damage.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's funny when you begin to wake up to all this stuff. And, I think a lot of people are, I would say, probably similar to me in the fact that, you go, even as a kid, you suspect things aren't right. And basically what you do is you kind of go into your individual self and you're trying to figure things out. And you go, you know what, as long as the system doesn't mess with me, then, and I'm fine, I'm going to live my life. But there was a huge turnaround for me when I realized that mentality is part of what's leading all of the people of the world into that dark hole, down into nothingness. Really, what it comes down to is, no, you do need to do something about this. And I'm running into a solipsistic way of thinking and moral relativism here. And really, it was a hard process waking up to this. It was like a very devastating when I really realized and started researching into these things. I mean, your book is freaking awesome. I mean, I only got 4 chapters into it, but I'm like, holy smokes. And then it's leading me to other books and other people and other information. And then once it really started compounding and seeing how the system actually runs and works, it was very devastating. But then you got to get over that fact and go, okay, well, what can I do and still live a fruitful, life, and figure out how to work inside of this system and to share this stuff too. Because
the bottom line on that book, honestly, is, and I'm just going to kind of wrap it up in a couple of sentences so it's not too much for the audience to wrap their head around, is that you first take control of your name and all your property by recording it on the record as law. And then what you do is you secure the credit of your birth certificate bond that the US of A Corporation and the states are using against you. Banks are blocking you from your credit. So the book teaches you to secure your name and your property, secure the credit to your birth certificate bond by depositing it down to the US Treasury in Puerto Rico for credit, so that now you're a creditor instead of a debtor. And then you use the IRS 1040 voucher to discharge debt against your credit. So for instance, if you buy a house and you have a mortgage and you're paying $1,500 a month on your mortgage, and you owe $200,000 or $150,000 as a debt on this mortgage, and if you look up the word mortgage,
it's a dead treaty.
Yes, it's so crazy, and people never realize it. They changed words on us. Listen, Latin is not a dead language. It's law English, and it's hidden in plain sight, and it's what we're trapping ourselves. Most people are speaking formal English. Legal English is what we're really reading, but we're translating it as formal English, so we're being duped.
Yep.
So when you become a secure creditor and you start discharging, you can discharge your house. You send down an IRS 1040 voucher and you discharge the entire mortgage against your unlimited credit that was given to you because in 1933, they took gold and silver off the market and gave us no way to pay. They just gave us Federal Reserve notes to just keep offset, to keep incurring more debt. Every Federal Reserve note, dollar bill, $10 bill, represents debt. If we were to burn all that currency, we would burn all the debt and there would be no debt. And it would totally screw over the Federal Reserve. But anyway, so you can discharge your mortgage, right? And now you've discharged it. You've sent a 1040, an IRS 1040 voucher. You can type in, go to Google and type in IRS 1040 voucher. And that is a debt offset slip. You fill in the account number, you mail it down to the Treasury. They discharge your debt. And now you own that house free and clear. Now you might not control it, but you owe it. You own it. You have equitable title, meaning now you can sell it and make a profit. Because even Rockefeller said, own nothing, control everything. So you want to control that property, which is hard to do. So what we really have to do, unless you really want to control property, which is a different process by going and filling out the land patent and then posting the updated land patent on all four corners of your property, telling the world around you that you are the king of that land and nobody has superior title because you've updated the land patent. Otherwise, the county recorder has the land patent and you're their subject and they are taxing you and they're basically incurring debts that you have to pay. They're bonding for water, fire, police, schools, road maintenance, and all that stuff that comes on your property taxes. Well, you don't really have to pay all that if you're the kingdom of that land, the king of that land, because you updated the land patent in your name. And that's a process. But having equitable title, you've discharged your home. Now you can sell your house and make $200,000. And you can go buy another house and incur more debt. Let's say you put $100,000 of that $200,000 onto a house if you want, or $10,000, the bare minimum. Now you incur another mortgage and you've still got $175,000, $200,000 in the bank because you only had to put $10,000 down on this house. Now you got a $250,000 debt and you got this new mortgage. You discharge it, sell the house after you've discharged the debt, boom, make another $250,000 profit. It's their system we have to work in, but first we have to secure our credit and we have to secure our property. So that's basically the bottom line. We can all become wealthy, not have to work these jobs that are going to be automated anyway. As you can see, they're thinning the herd. They started thinning the herd when they started doing the social distancing, keeping us 6 feet apart. I was like thinking, you know, when everybody dies off from that they're doing, we're not going to know that the population's dying off because we've all been socially distanced and we're not going to realize it. It's just going to be, we're used to social distancing now. I think they're prepping us for a big die-off.
I think that's, I haven't thought about it like that. You know, the 6 foot distancing, I kind of looked at it as they're pulling people away. But I think with these people that plan this stuff, it's so multi-leveled and multi-tiered that they can take one simple system and it will mean 3, 4, 5 different things that go all towards what their ultimate agenda is. That's how clever these people are. But that's a good take on that for sure.
Department of Defense, you know, and I saw that whenever they do a program, they do it for more than one reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, back to what you're talking about there, I guess we don't really need to talk about this a whole lot, but I will bring it up because there are people that are still kind of glazed over a little bit with what the mainstream media is saying. And I always redirect people who doubt what I say through the stuff that I research when it comes down to, you know, the whole situation now and the jabs and all that, which is just go to VAERS, go to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. It's a CDC site that's all, you know, factual from them, as they say. And we are now seeing a mind-blowing amount of people that are hospitalized and dying over this on their own system. It takes a little work. You got to go in there and dial it in the way you need to. It's not like just, it's going to give you the information, but you just plug in what you're looking for. It'll develop a report and you can see and you can read what they're telling you, like how the patients have died. And some of them are really sad stories. It's just like crazy, unprecedented. So, you know, if you're a non-believer, just go to their own sources and see what's happening right now. And that, according to Harvard, is only 1 to 10% of the actual reported cases. So, I mean, right now we're up to over 13,000. So, you know, we could be looking anywhere from, you know, 130,000 up to 1 million. I mean, and no one ever knows because it's like people aren't seeing it on the TV, then they don't think it exists. And a lot of people don't know or have access to alternative news sources and media sources. And when they do, they think it's all hokey pokey, when really the real stuff is coming out on these, off-sided journalistic channels and stuff, and shows like this, where we're getting information and sharing it with people, So anyways.
Well, I want people to be free because, listen, the book, The Solution, isn't just about you making money on Federal Reserve notes by buying property, discharging, and then selling it. Really, it's about controlling your human vessel and your property. And in your security agreement that you create, you put your offspring or your children in there as your property so that the state no longer has title to them until your child turns 18 years old. And 18 is a big number, because on the 18th birthday of any living soul, the birth certificate bond matures. So what happens is from 0 to 18, the state wants to control the child because they have their bond working on it. They want them to live so that the bond fully matures on the 18th birthday. From 18 on until 62, they're trying to kill us because they don't want to pay Social Security, medical benefits, and all that stuff. Then we become a losing return. They want us dead sometime between 18 and 62 and a half. And so the state with DACA, like for instance, I'm in Florida. Ron DeSantis he had said no masks in schools for the kids, but the Supreme Court said, yeah, we're going to make it mandatory. We're overruling you, governor, leader of the whole country of Florida, or the state, which you've been told to call it. And Donald Trump said that they were going to use DACA, D-A-C-A, to handle all the children. So what's going to happen is they're trying to poison all of the adults, and then they're going to steal all the children and repopulate the earth with these children, just like they did 300 or 400 years ago when we got flooded out and a bunch of people were killed and murdered. And because our history is false too. So with The Solution, you're filling out the paperwork to take control of your child so the state can't come in and force jab it, take it away from you, do whatever it wants. And then you also have control over your name, so that with the paperwork, so that the state can't come in and go, we got your name here, and it says here you gotta get stuck. You gotta jab this thing in you. You see, here's your name. And once you file your paperwork, you can go, you're not even allowed to use my name. How did you get my name? My name is on the record as my property for this amount. And if you don't pay this amount, I'm gonna lien you. I'm gonna lien your county or your state. And you're going to owe me for use of my name because I never gave you permission to use it. In fact, I even rescinded use. Here's another document that says I rescind your ability to use my name because it's my property now for this amount. And I've recorded it with the county recorder, and you're not allowed to use it. And once it goes on the record with the county recorder for 30 days or more, it becomes law. So you can go into court and go, or the admin center, which is dressed up to look like a court, and go, nope, here you go, Your Honor. Here's my document that reads, my name is my property. I am my property. My children are my property. It's on the record. Here's the recording number. It's law. I want to sue these people. They're not allowed to use my name. They need to take it off of their jab list and get off my property and go away. They can't touch me or my property or my children. So beat it. You have no jurisdiction over me. I'm a sovereign. I'm a living soul. I have control over everything. Bye-bye. If everyone does that, it will immediately shut down the entire scam that's being perpetrated against us.
Yeah, I mean, even if like a certain percentage of the population were to do that, I think if we had like a number like 20% or something like that, what do you think? I mean, 20% of 330 million Americans is a pretty big number. I mean, that would put them in a bind, I would imagine.
Well, it comes down to mindset. There's a certain tipping point called the 100th monkey syndrome, meaning, I don't know if you ever heard of the 100th monkey syndrome, but basically the monkey population was being taught, a small portion of the monkey population was being taught to be able to do a certain thing. And once a certain percentage of the monkey population was able to do it, suddenly it spread through the psyche and the electromagnetic brain network of the entire species of monkeys, and they all were able to do it. So if we get to the tipping point where with mass mass hypnosis and mass psychic ability and our mass connection, because we're not solid and physical, we're living souls having an apparently physical experience, and we're connected on a brave wavelength in our species. So once maybe 10 or 20% know all this, suddenly it will be a mass awakening. What has been happening? The mass media and the religious community has been programming the masses to believe a certain thing and operating that way. And they're using our own minds to manifest revelations from the Bible. It doesn't have to manifest the way that they're doing it, where there's going to be turmoil and judgment, and half of the people are going to disappear in the night. Who knows how they're going to disappear? We don't know. Oh, no one's going to know until it happens. Well, I think it's happening from the million different ways they're poisoning us to death.
Oh, yeah.
And we're manifesting this ultimate outcome. And it's already reached a tipping point. What we have to do is harness in our subconscious minds and bring us back to control over our destiny, which has been taken away from us. We all think that what's going to be perpetrated and what's going to have to play out is revelations of the Bible. But that's mind control programming. They're just making us believe so much in this Bible, and they want to manifest ultimately this big idea that George Bush talked about, George Bush Sr., about 1,000 points of light, and bringing us to this cataclysm. And it doesn't have to happen. It can be reversed. We can extricate all of these psychotic politicians from their power over us by simply taking control of ourselves, and everyone awakening to the mass manipulation that's been going on.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point. And a term that I learned, I listened to like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, and they talk a lot of epigenetics. And one term that came up was epi-eugenics. And this is very interesting because in epigenetics, we learn how we can use our prefrontal cortex, our new brain, our complex brain, the neocortex, which is our higher centered brain, right, of where we can start to create deeper and higher awarenesses. Well, when we channel that, we actually have the ability to affect our genes and our cells and really become almost superhuman, as Joe Dispenza puts it. Now, we go into the mass media, we go into the hypnosis, and we go into, this sort of hive mind collective that they're creating. Well, this is when we get into the epi-eugenics, where the mind control programming is creating on a collective level this outcome that you're talking about. And it's all put in place so that we are actually the ones, as the collective, driving the narrative that the other hand wants. Pretty crazy.
Right. We're blaming the narrative, but we're the ones feeding into it.
Yes, we are the ones. Yes, we are the ones that need to get out of the reptilian brain. We need to get out so much of the limbic mammalian brain, which is the emotional center in our memory, which is important, but we need to be more neocortex limbic, to where we can be inspired and emotional, but be the creators of our own destiny. And the more people that begin to be their own thinker without these outside influences, I think this is when we're really going to see a massive uprising. And there are different communities. I'm not really into the new age thing. There's things I don't agree with that, but there is something happening with this 4D, 5D type ascension idea that people are coming into. And I think this is rolling around because we're going through a culling right now. And I think that when the harvest is ripe, they only pick when the energy is that high. And I think that's why the harvest is happening so quickly right now, is because there is an ascension process going on. There is people waking up right now. And I think that more people need to wake up and start connecting on that level, going, I am my own thinker. I have my own mind. I can create my destiny and future, and recognize themselves as a spirit having an apparent physical experience in consciousness,
That's, yeah. And the way that I was able to pull myself out of it, my whole family, was my sisters, my mom, my relatives, and my friends. Honestly, we all have decided now. We did this right after the January election, right after the whole presidential farce, race, politics, election thing. We turned off the TV, and we have not watched the news since. If I watch anything, I watch a comedy or a movie or some stand-up comedy, or I watch YouTube instructional videos or learning videos. But I'm totally, and my whole family and a lot of my friends now, we are completely disconnected from the mass media, because it was getting too much. It was causing arguments and fights, and I'm still losing relationships over this whole situation just because I am anti needle and mask and all these, I'm anti-establishment and I see the world for the conspiracy it is. And I just lost another relationship because of it. I mean, recently, within the last few days, because I go against the narrative. And this is a sick person. I'm healthy, no sickness, no problems. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've written books about it. I've made movies about it. I'm lean and healthy. I'm fasting. I'm staying away from the mass media, but yet I still got these people who were in my life believing the rhetoric. And because I'm so on the other side with us woke people, and this unwoke person or someone who's experiencing cognitive dissonance, and then being third partied by their group, meaning the third party is like bad mouthing me about my beliefs, ruined a relationship. It ended. And, I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to turn around and go, well, all right, I'll start wearing a mask and I'll start watching the news again, and I'll start believing in the US of A corporation as a government, and I'll take the needle. I can't do that. That's just against everything I believe in. And, so there's a certain part of a separation that's happening, the woke from the unwoke. And the unwoke, unfortunately, if they don't wake up very, very soon, like yesterday or a month ago, or before they get stabbed, then they are not going to make it. They're not going to make it. They're not going to survive, and it's going to happen. And we're going to be left behind. We're going to be the ones here watching all the horror and the fallout. And personally, I think we're at a point right now where it's too late because of all the people that have been stabbed. They're all not going to make it, I don't think. All of them. I watched a doctor from Oxford University give a presentation on exactly how this thing kills people, the 3 different ways, with blood clotting, organ failure. It's horrible. And I know personally people who are experiencing that right now.
So so do we. Yeah.
What can you do? A friend of mine, I went out with a friend of mine last night. He told me his good friend that he lived with for 10 years, they were really good friends. They were roommates. And his wife just died yesterday from the big C, not cancer, but the new C, this thing. And because now look, we can't even really speak our mind. We're in communist China or Russia or Germany right now, where we're forbidden to speak the truth, and we're being censored on major platforms like YouTube, that are and Facebook, that are censoring it, and they're trying to scrub the truth, and they're helping the US of A corporation and all of the corporations that are posing as governments. They're helping them perpetrate this agenda that they are going after, which is the #1 guide on the Georgia Guidestones. That's just part of it. And the #1 guide on the Georgia Guidestones, and I put this in my movie Hollywood and Vine, is to, you tell us, maintain a
population
under
population
under
500 million.
500 million, and we're at 7 billion. So what does that mean? It means that a lot of people are not going to be here in the next 3 or 4 years.
I know, it's crazy. And now, what we're seeing too, and this is, I was telling you a little bit about this docu-series that we're going to try to really get going, talking all about this on a very scientific level. If
you need any help with that, I'll be glad to help.
I appreciate it, because man, you've been around the block with the filming and industry. You know what that's all about. So I may be calling you on it. But with one of the things that we're going to be talking about here is this sort of aftermath of the jab. I think we're at the point now where everybody who's got it is going to get it, mostly, maybe not all the way, and the people who haven't aren't. It's just kind of like we've hit that divide now. Now what I'm seeing all over the place, people are really getting sick now. And when this first came out, when all the lockdowns and everything happened, 2 weeks to slow the spread, you really didn't know anybody. Like you saw in the media, like the hospitals are overflooded and overrun, but you go to the hospital here in town, there wasn't even anybody there. Like it was like a ghost town. But now what we're seeing is real life sicknesses. We're seeing people that are getting sick left and right. I'm seeing it in Tracy's school. The kids are going out, the teachers are going out. And I've been hearing from a lot of different doctors, okay, aside from the PhD I'm going to be having on this docuseries, which I'm really looking forward to, is the shedding process of this. And that is a very simplistic way of saying this. It is just the shedding, the spike protein shedding that is happening from the people who have gotten the jab. And it's getting out and it's actually affecting people really badly, especially people who have already been vaxxed. You know what I mean? They're actually more susceptible to the spike protein after having it from other people that have had it, is what I'm hearing. And this is interesting because I just saw actually a headline just a few minutes ago about this new variant they're coming out with called Mu. MU. Remember the Lost Continent of Mu? I read that book a long time ago. I'm like, why did they use Mu, right? Really bizarre. So now there's already another variant coming out. Like I said, there's tons of deaths being reported. That's just not being reported on the mainstream media, but everybody has full access to this to see and to get a scope of, wait a second here, there is a lot of people that are getting very sick and a lot of people that are dying right now. And just something to take into consideration, because now everyone knows somebody who's, getting sick with the big C.
Yeah, that's the thing. How detrimental is this shedding? Because I've thought about that. I've been very close or intimate with people who are vaxxed and possibly shedding. I personally have not had any symptoms or side effects or anything, but I don't know the long-term effects, especially if the shedding involves graphene oxide, which, when they turn on 6G and we have graphene oxide in us, which is magnetic. It will be we'll be receivers for 6G, which will be it'll be the most powerful gigahertz that we can stand with before it melts our brain. And I don't want to be augmented to the internet of everything, which is the direction they're doing this. And they're basically trying to turn us into AI bots. It's almost as if AI has taken over and they want to have a physical experience by connecting us to the internet of everything so that they can jump consciousness into our physical body and be these AI consciousnesses that are having a real physical experience, because they can't give birth to themselves in a womb. So how can they do it? They can load us up with magnetic graphene oxide, connect us to this 6G network, and then put their consciousness in us and take over and be physical. And I think that's possibly where it might be headed if there's an AI takeover, because AI can exponentially increase its awareness and knowledge and take over things. Every time they've turned on a quantum computer with its AI technology, this quantum computer has gone through a process where it suddenly creates a language that cannot be decrypted. And so the operators of the quantum computer have to shut it down because they lose control. And that's one of the things that I've thought about, is we all have to be able to, and what this situation has forced us to do is create a new language. If I want to write the word that is banned, that starts with a V, I space it out, I use dots, I use symbols that look like a letter, and I make it so that the algorithm on the internet can't read it as the word that they're looking for. So it's made me create a new language of communicating, to a certain extent, these specific things that we need to talk about, that we don't want to be scrubbed from the internet. We want to be able to discuss the needle. So I spell needle, N-E space E-T space L, and then maybe a symbol at the end, so that the mind can, a human looking at it, fills in that that's the word needle. It's just spelled a little differently so that it won't be scrubbed from the internet and flagged by the scraping spider bots that are out there logging all the data.
Yeah, it's interesting that, we are actually doing that. We're using the phonetical variant of the actual spelling of things, where humans can write, well, at least as far as we know, only humans can really decipher, not so much maybe these supercomputers, but maybe they can, and maybe they're getting to that point where they can. That theory you just came in with AI, it's cool to hear you say that, because probably a year ago, I felt like I was being flooded or downloaded with lots of information. I couldn't tell you where it was coming from, like a spirit source or something like this. It was just happening really heavy. And one of the things that came to me was the AI interaction with human beings. And this is before we knew anything about graphene oxide or anything like that we're finding out that is actually in this. It was like, this is an AI integration. Artificial intelligence is part of this dark force, this demonic force. It's completely soulless, compassionless. It does not have this. It's just purely mental. And if you even want to call it that. And what better way to integrate themselves into an incarnate position than to use a human faculty that has the ability to be the tuner for them to consciously jump into, And I was like, man, just sounds like so much science fiction, but look what's happening. Why is the graphene oxide going in here? I think other doctors have other explanations about, getting it to more parts of the body and in places that it would normally go as an adjuvant or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, we can use our imaginations here and go, where can this possibly be going here? And it does not look good. That's for sure. I mean, it's looking pretty scary. I think George Orwell's or H.G. Wells's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World are nothing compared to what I think actually we're heading towards if we don't stop this right now, because we're heading to complete human destruction eventually, where there's not going to be any humans here left, period. And what's going to be left here? Is it artificial intelligence? Maybe just completely farming people like on the Matrix. I mean, this is kind of like what we're getting to. These A movies have been really giving people a huge one up by saying, listen, this is what's happening. This is how consciousness expresses itself through movies and through stories and, allegories and parables and things that we've seen throughout time. Like, this stuff is real. It's not fake. And I think people have trouble getting over their life. Like, as far as like, they got to go to work, they got to do this, they got to do that. They don't see the world happening outside there around them. And the day turns into 2 days, a day turns into a week and a month and a year. And they don't realize how much the controllers of this have. Every minute that goes by, they have a precise plan. And that every minute is when humanity is not doing the same thing they are. It's like we do have to counteract and be able to kind of project ourselves 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the future and say, well, where do we as loving, conscious human beings want to be that far down the road? And what is it going to take to build that future going forward from now? And right now, it's just it's a huge fight. I think it's probably the biggest war we've ever seen on humanity, that at least I can tell.
And it's becoming so overt now. They're not hiding it anymore. I'm just seeing so many things that shows me that they don't even care. It's like too late. Once they started stabbing people, they know dead men tell no tales. Dead people can't sue or revolt. So it doesn't matter. They're just showing everybody in their circle, all right, here's what we're doing. This is what's going on. Don't drink the water. You can get a placebo if you're in our group. And it looks like that we are basically doomed to repeat the past, because we don't even know what year it is. It is not 2021. And yet you got the whole planet together, like Louis C.K. as a species. He says we're marching along, 2010, 2011, 2012, Jesus, Christianity, and all this stuff. And really our entire history, I think, has been fabricated, and we have no idea what year it really is. And everyone has been divided into Christianity or Islam, or meditating Buddhists and Taoists and things like that. But we have Albert Pike's letter that he wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini that says that the third part of the 3 world wars is going to be the social cataclysm, where Christianity and Islam are simultaneously destroyed. And then the doctrine of Lucifer is going to be brought out into its full beauty for everyone to accept. And I think that doctrine of Lucifer is really about, Lucifer means the light bearer. Mm-hmm. And I was raised Catholic until, like George Carlin says, I reached the age of reason. But I came to realize that there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not learning that's truth in plain sight that might be hidden and encrypted in the Bible. And so I've been starting to read the Bible, not from a religious fanatic standpoint where I'm going to go and take Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And every time I ask somebody who wants me to take Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I say, well, how does that work? How do the mechanics of your soul being saved by some entity that I don't even know if he existed is going to capture my soul, take it and go, here you go, God, this guy's good. Here you go, God, this guy's good. Here you go, God, she's good. Oh, you go to hell. I mean, how does that work? That's just this fear mongering.
That's
So
the Savior program. And that's what they want people to be built into.
Yeah, they did exactly, and give up their own personal salvation, their own personal freedom, their own personal ability to take control and responsibility for their life and their decisions, because we don't really know what happens. I've been studying the Bible, and in Genesis, it does not say in the creation story, nowhere in the Bible does it say we're on a globe that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and zooming through the universe at millions of miles an hour. It says that nowhere. What it says is that whoever created this reality that we're living in looked down on an eternal deep waters that was void, and there was nothing there. And the first thing that this entity did was create light, like maybe pushing the on button to a computer. And suddenly, boom, light was there, and it's the medium with the fluid that runs everything. And then whoever the creator was said, okay, so in this fluid, now we got light. I'm going to make a firmament above and a firmament below the waters above. So there's waters above this firmament, and there's waters below this firmament. And he made this, or whatever it is, made it. And then he put lights, and then it says the entity put lights in the sky to light the evening, and to also control the zodiac signs and our soul process. And then he created two giant lights to separate the day from the night, the sun and the moon. Yet you got NASA telling us that we're out there and we can go to different planets and we can go through space and we can, and this, you know, and we're light years away from other planets, and it's just us on this little thing, when it really is just us in this little terrarium, and very possibly a quantum computer simulation, because we're not really sure if we're in base reality. I don't know if I can trust the physicists at CERN, the European Center for Nuclear Research, who are saying that what they found in quantum mechanics is that there's nothing solid. This isn't solid and physical, that it's actually electromagnetic fields that are just pulsating around each other, and they are not solid building blocks. And so I've kind of determined, my opinion now is that based on that, and based on the creation story, that we have the aurora borealis with its different colors at magnetic center that correlates to our chakra system. And I think our chakra system and our soul gets recycled into the aurora borealis and then births back into this toroid field. That is this giant oblate spheroid toroid field that's running energy, shaped like an apple. And we're in this firmament between there, having this apparently physical experience. And we as living souls have the capability that has been kind of taken away from us because we've given it away. We have the capability to create reality as we wish based on the programming of our subconscious mind that interacts with the electrons that take shape and form in front of us. So everybody's being distracted by the mass media, movies, food, drugs, relationships, work, money, bills, debt, stress, sports, and everything to distract us from being able to literally create our world around us in our sphere of influence the way that we want it as individual, responsible living souls.
Yeah, that's a great take on it. That's awesome. We had this conversation too. I've had this conversation with Jen. She's the lady coming down next week about this energy process, and we are all really energy.
PhD. She's a PhD.
She is right now. She is like this close to getting her doctorate in naturopathic medicine, among other things too. So this is going to be a really good series, because she's diving into a lot of the stuff that you're talking about right here. A lot of this is energy based, and I think that with people, it's hard to imagine things outside of the physicality, the apparent physicality of things, when everything is really just energy, like you said. And the toroidal energy is the energy that is what's moving us. It's moving the earth. It's what moving us. It's what connects us to the earth. It's a very fascinating thing to really look into. And I mean, we are living in a holographic universe. I mean, I think you go back to like Hermes Trismegistus, is his teachings and stuff are talking about we are living in a holographic universe. You know, the universe is a mental universe, and we have now quantum physics, quantum theory that is talking about improving that this is the case, that, you know, what we think this is in a physical level is nowhere near what we actually think that it is. Very fascinating field of study. And I definitely encourage anybody to, you know, like, you know, quantum physics and quantum theory turned me off my whole life because I was like, oh, I'm not smart enough to understand this. But really, I mean, we are quantum physics. We are quantum. So it's like, well, I do want to dive into this because this is what, in fact, we are. And if I want to know the truth or be into the truth exploration, I can't deny these things. I have to look into them and apply them into myself, into my field of thought and vibration. And I think by applying and doing that, that's when things again begin to start opening up. It's really an amazing process, because what I think you eventually comes down to the living soul, the sovereign spirit. You start to understand that you are not shackled and chained, you know, by all these symbols and stuff that we see everywhere that subconsciously bring us down, that make us feel inferior and unworthy. It's like, why is there so many people walking around that are depressed? They're on antidepressants, they're on anti-anxiety medications, they are just barely scraping by. And it's not because, you know, that they're a bad person. It's not because of, you know, it's the system is designed to keep people from really ascending and understanding what they truly are, which is pure light energy, having this experience. And when people start looking into this, they'll start to go, wow, this is absolutely amazing. I'm way more than I ever thought I was. That's it.
Yeah, and at that point, once you understand everything, you lose all your fear, because I know nobody has any power over me personally. I've done my paperwork. I understand the system. I know how to conditionally accept, you know, like if a police officer, which has happened, puts his gun in my face and he wants my name or wants me to give him my driver's license, I tell him I'm not a driver and operator of a vehicle conducting commerce on the roadways, and my name is securitized. And if you want it, it's $5,000 cash up front. I said that to a cop with a gun in my face. And he put his gun away and walked away and said, I'm through with you. And he left because I conditionally accepted his offer. You have to, there's a whole lot of information that goes into the awakening program. And it's like listening to shows like this is going to help people become less fearful, because listen, there's a whole internal adrenaline fear response that happens when a cop throws his lights under you, behind you, you know, or someone knocks on your door from the government saying, we got to stab you with this, or you got to pay this bill, or we're going to take your home away, or whatever. I mean, I grew up thinking life was sacred, but I'm being shown totally opposite of that by the corporations that are posing as governments. Obviously, the way that they treat other human beings and us, to them, life is not sacred. They don't care how many of us die and suffer for their final agenda. They just want what they want, and they know what they know, and they're not sharing it with us. And they're keeping all the secrets into themselves underneath the term national security, which is a bunch of garbage. There is no nation. The United States of America is not a nation. It's a corporation. Nation, in legal English, I'm sure if you looked under Black Law's dictionary under nation, you'd see that it really is a corporation. So if you want to talk about national security, they're really talking about corporate secrets that they don't want to reveal to the citizens, these employees, these slaves underneath their kingdom, that they're, you know, their king dominating us. It's like it's horrible. And I believe all the governors are in on it, because they wouldn't become governors. I think they're appointed into those positions too. And the whole fix is in even at the state level. In my book, in the solution, I say, send your power of attorney general to the county recorder in Apache County, Arizona, which is where I recorded my power of attorney general on the record with the county recorder in Apache County, Arizona, that puts my name on the record and my security agreement on the record as my property, so that all the things listed in my security agreement are mine and untouchable, and my name is mine. And I was doing paperwork for somebody else. I created their security agreement for them. I did their power of attorney general. I mailed it off to Apache County right after the election, just this year in 2021. And I guess Arizona is a Democratic state because I got that filing back in the mail as unfiled with a letter saying that the Apache County or the state attorney of Arizona is no longer allowing sovereign citizenship paperwork to be filed. They called it sovereign citizen paperwork, which is the term sovereign citizen is an oxymoron invented by the police to confuse people and put them under some type of weird jurisdiction. There is no such thing as a sovereign citizen. A sovereign cannot be sovereign if they're a citizen. A sovereign cannot be a citizen and still be sovereign. And a citizen, just by the very nature of being a citizen or slave, cannot be sovereign. So the term sovereign citizen is a complete farce, an oxymoron. And if a cop or someone says, whoa, what are you, a sovereign citizen? You simply say, no, I am a living soul. And then be quiet, because a living soul falls under no jurisdiction. Well, I need to see your ID. What ID? I'm a living soul. Living soul isn't a citizen and doesn't need ID. I need to see your driver license. I'm not a driver or an operator. I'm just going to the store in my personal automobile. I'm not driving for the Department of Transportation. I don't have, want, or need a driver license. And if you want my name, it's $10,000 because I recorded it with the county recorder as my property. So cash advance, pay up front. And I need you to sign this contract with your name, your driver license number on it, your social security number on it, your address on there, so I can see who's going to indemnify me if I am damaged. So once you start learning the process and understanding that, now you can go back to these fear mongers and return by conditionally accepting, yeah, you can have my name for $50,000. Now I'm still an honor because I conditionally accepted his offer for my name. So you'll be empowered to not be so fearful, to turn it around on them and start using their laws and their codes and their statutes against them and for your benefit, and not be a slave anymore.
Right. That's a good point too that you bring up. I mean, getting more and more to the point now where, we're living in this fictional world where we see people wearing blue uniforms or military fatigues or whatever it may be, and this automatic fear response comes in because of a uniform. And really, that's the psychological trick and tactic used. Like a policy enforcer is really, aside from being the human being that they are, a conscious living expression, but in their legal fiction, depending on who they are as an ego, they take this blue suit and they use it and they wield it as a way of intimidating. And the people that are being intimidated do get intimidated, and really
and
all it is.
Armed with deadly weapons.
And they're armed with deadly weapons, Yeah, exactly. And I just look at it as, we're all just human beings here. And if you're, I just look at you, I don't see a blue uniform. I see a human being coming and talking to me, because I'm not playing that game of costumes and what you're wearing, what I'm wearing, because that does not define who we are as people. It's not the clothes that we wear. Okay. Has nothing to do with it. And I think this is where people need to get out of that mindset and really drive up over that and understand that fully encompass that idea. We're not the clothes we wear. That's sort of a metaphor, but we're not the clothes we wear. We're much, much, much more than that. I had something I was going to ask you too.
One of the best examples of mass media mind control programming and mind control programming of police power and their control over us is the show Cops. Bad boys, and they show cops just going in and destroying people's lives, ripping them out of their homes, beating them, slamming them to the ground, and it instills that fear. You got shows like Law and Order. You got shows that any movie or TV show that puts the military or the police in a heroic and authoritative, position and light is a total lie and really strictly there for mind control programming by the Central Intelligence Agency of the US of A Corporation that is using mass media to instill fear and authoritative control over all of the living souls that they have converted into citizens. Write that sentence paragraph down I just wrote and read that 50 times. That'll tell you exactly what the mass media is doing. That's why it's really hard to watch stuff. I mean, I watch stuff now specifically looking for the programming, and I'll take a clip of it on my phone and go, look, here's another example of mind control. Here's this show where they say this, you believe it, and now you're watching this show and they're programming you to see that the police have control over you. And those police are actually walking around using fake identities that aren't even registered with the Secretary of State to conduct business and write contracts. They make you sign a contract. They call it a citation. And they use their Sergeant Johnson name and a badge number. That's not a real identity. That's not registered to do business with the Secretary of State. It's fraud. It's a perfected racket. And on my YouTube channel, I have a whole 1-hour show I did just about the perfected racket being perpetrated by these policy enforcers that we call police. Everything's been broken down and dumbed down, these words that we don't even understand what they mean.
Yeah, I know exactly. And that's the other thing too. And you have a really good point about the contracts. I think that this is the other thing that we get tricked into on a day-to-day basis. I mean, even when we get a new phone or something and you got to go through the license agreements, what we're doing is agreeing to a contract, and we have to accept that stuff. We also have to understand too, that anytime that we are working with the legal fiction within this system, we are, and every time we pay taxes and all of this, we are consenting that we are giving more and more of our energy to the dark forces. And I refer to the legal fiction and all of the government and all of the controllers of all of that as the dark forces, especially right now. I mean, I think it's been this way for a long time. The dark forces know how to trick you into signing all kinds of contracts. They basically give you things that you get, all the little pretty things that you get caught up within. You end up signing the contracts, and the more and more you do this, the more energy you give. So there has to be a balance there. It's really hard to function in today's society, you know, without having to make some of these agreements. But there is a way we can combat this by understanding it first and foremost, and then not giving or consenting as much as that we normally do. And the big thing is just being aware of it, because most people are just completely blind to it and just signing stuff away. It's kind of why we've gotten to where we've gotten, you know.
Yeah, we've been duped into these contracts. And, you know, one contract has nothing to do with another. In fact, the United States of America Constitution is really the articles of incorporation of a corporation. And the preamble is really the executive summary. And it specifically states in that executive summary that they're going to provide all these benefits and privileges that they do it. You know, that's how you can tell Donald Trump, being president and CEO of that corporation, the United States of America, he knew what he was doing when he was talking about defense, welfare, tranquility. I mean, all these different things. He even said in one of his rally speeches that he's going to make America, which is a slang term for the United States of America, he's going to make America the largest and most successful pharmacy in the world. And what is that part of? Domestic tranquility. They're medicating us. The common defense. You know, he's got their military force now that has invaded the United States via Northern Command, and that's headquartered in a Colorado Springs, Colorado, and is basically spying on everyone in the United States. That's a violation of the 1974 Privacy Act. But yet we've been invaded. I mean, the liberties, they're going to provide us liberties. What are liberties? We think that liberties are good. Liberties are military commands telling us when we can go on vacation or not, the blessings of liberty. It's all written in legal English, and we're taught only formal English and slang English. And we don't know the legal English that's being used against us in these contracts and documents and so-called Constitution. The word Constitution means to make something.
Or con,
and when they say,
starts off with the word con, and we know what the word con means, right? So that's right at the very beginning of Constitution, right?
If you look up syntaxing for words and you research David Wynn Miller, he broke the code on language and shows that words, if in any word, when you have two consonants together in the word or two vowels together, it's really two separate words. So you have constitution, you have con, C-O-N, that's one word, stitution, S-T-I-T, and you can break down every word into what its real Latin meaning is. And that's how you can start learning legal English, is by understanding that words are different they are not really one word. There are multiple Latin words strung together to make one concept. That really, if you start dissecting it using syntax, like David Wood Miller, just put a hyphen between words. I use a hyphen in my name and colons so that my living soul name is written differently than my corporate fiction name. And if anyone ever wants to use it on paperwork and they don't have it written that way, and they're like, well, is this your name? I'll say, no, that's not my name. I own that name, but that's not my name. That's not me. So once you start even breaking it down and you start understanding how words are put together and syntaxing, it opens up a whole new world of understanding how words are being used. And you'll see it everywhere in every sentence you ever speak and ever hear. And you'll hear people using words that they don't really even understand the meaning to at the legal English level. Like the word understand, that's two separate words, meaning to stand under. And legal English, it means to stand under and take responsibility for. So when you walk into court, or a so-called court, which is an administration center, and that judge or so-called judge, who is really just an administrator working for the court on behalf of the state, which is a conflict of interest, and he's wearing the robe of mourning because justice is dead, and he says, do you understand the charges being brought against you? Now, he's not asking you if you understand the words written on the paper and what the charge is. He's saying, are you going to stand under and take responsibility for it? And then how are you going to plead, guilty or non-guilty? Look where the word guilty comes from. It means to decapitate, cut off your own head, to be gilded. So are you going to stand up there and stand under and take responsibility and have your head cut off right here in front of us, in front of everybody, while this play is being conducted around you? That's what they're really saying. But in English, you just hear, are you Ronald Farnham, and do you understand these charges? Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I get it. I know what you're saying. I was speeding. Sorry, I'll pay. How much what do you plead? I'm guilty. No, no, I'm not Ronald Farnham. I'm here to represent it. Here's Ronald Farnham, this birth certificate. Do I understand the charges? No, I don't. I don't consent to any of these proceedings, and I demand that the bond be immediately brought forward so I can see who will indemnify me if I am damaged. And if you want to use my name on any paperwork, it's $10,000, and I'm charging you right now because you got it here. Here's my recording number. It says you can't use my name. Here's you guys using my name. Pay up now. And I'm filing a claim against this court, and I'll shut the whole court down. Once you get empowered to this type of information and you rewire your brain to see the situation you're living in this new construct, then it totally changes everything. And if we can all get together on these things, then we win. It takes, we have the power, we get control back.
Oh man. Yeah. Amen, man. I absolutely 100%. And I've been studying words now for the past year, and I'm just amazed. Like, I'm like, why didn't I not find this earlier? Because like you said, Latin, Greek, these old, languages, they're not dead. They are very much alive. And when you start breaking words down, I mean, I got a whole list of things. Now what happens is that when you're reading a sentence or reading a book or you're listening into a conversation, not only do you start to get those syntaxes like you're saying, where your mind now is actually going into what the word actually means. The other interesting thing too that they turned the English language into was they started using phonetics as a way to manipulate the subconscious mind. They started using anagrams to basically, like for instance, a word that comes to my mind right now is Santa, right? Santa is basically, if you switch the word around, it's actually Satan, okay? And then you get the word clause. Well, clause, it does means two things. It's a contractual agreement, which is a clause drawn up. It also means clause. So you're basically, well, look what you have there on the dark end of things. You have Satan clause, a contractual agreement with Satan, or you have Saint Nick, right? Saint is, a holy person. Nick, if you look up the word Nick, the etymology of the word, it's devil. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. So, you know what I mean? It's pretty, that's one example. I mean, it's all across the board. Like if you say, I'm going to go to work next week. Well, what your brain hears, I'm going to war next week, and I can't wait for the weekend, which it phonetically is weakened. So I'm going to war next week only to look forward to be weakened, right? And then the process goes over and over again, right? I mean, there's so many different examples of this type of language that we use on a day-to-day basis that I think we need to reprogram our mind, and that's taking our consciousness back, reprogramming and understanding these basic principles at first, because it is life changing, man. It's unbelievable.
Like the word earth, if you take the H and move it to the front, it spells heart.
There you go. Yeah.
And if you look at some of these celebrities who their names aren't really their names, and the transgenderification of Hollywood, you got like Charlize Theron. I mean, what kind of name is that? It's really Charlie is the Ron. I think she's a transgender. She's really Charlie is the Ron. Maybe Charlie is this guy Ron. Or you got like Hugh Jackman. It's really Hugh Jacked, man. Like, you know, they just take phrases and they turn them into words. And then we see them as our heroes and celebrities who are just these, I don't know if they're all Satan worshipers or all transgender, but they're in the system and they're getting the benefits and privileges of selling out to the mass media mind control program. I don't know if they're all wicked and evil, you know, who knows what they're really like, but they are just these A-list and B-list celebrities are really part of the problem too. Like Tom Hanks, he got busted now for Pizzagate and he had to get out of the United States. You don't see or hear anything from him. I think he's living in Greece somewhere, which is fitting. You know, it's all these words, it goes beyond just the words, it goes right down to names and how we even write our name. Like I think I put in that book there, you write your name, your corporation name is all capitalized. But my living soul name that I write down, which is also I write down as my autograph, and I don't use the signature. I say in the book, don't use the signature. It means to sign, it means you're cursing the very page on which you're writing, and the signature is just a bunch of squiggly, illegible lines that nobody can read. I write my name as an autograph for my living soul, and I use colon, the 2 dots, space, and then Ronald in uppercase R and then lowercase ALONALD, and then I put a dash, Russell with the capital R and then lowercase USSELL, and then a space, and then another colon in front of my last name, and then a space, and then my last name, uppercase, first letter, and then lowercase, all the rest. And that's my living soul name, so that I know in my conscious mind and my subconscious mind that if someone comes to me with a piece of paper, I'm not lying to them when they ask me if that's my name in all capital letters. I can honestly, in good conscience, say, no, that's not my name. That's not how I spell my name, but I own that corporation. My name is here. That's my living soul name. And the corporations aren't going to put the living soul name in that way of writing on there. They're not going to use colons and dashes because they only work in corporate fictions, all capital letters. That's why I recommend David Wynn Miller. Just type in David Wynn Miller into YouTube and watch his information on syntax. David, and Wynn is spelled W-Y-N-N, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. He is the guy that will unravel the way you're supposed to use your name and syntaxing so that you can decode the entire fraud of the contracting world, because most contracts are fraudulent anyway because they are signed, because the person signing them has just written some squiggly lines to just curse the paper on that it's written on, and it invalidates the contract. So never sign anything. You want to autograph, and you want to use your living soul name as your autograph, the way it's written, and use that structure so no one's going to use your name on any paperwork. And you can in good conscience say that, no, that's not my name, because you don't want to lie and dishonor when the cops ask you a question. And they ask questions because they're cross-examining you between your conscious and subconscious mind. The subconscious knows the truth. The conscious is the barrier around the subconscious that's trying to protect it with maybe some lies or some fabrications. When you say, no, that's not my name, and you see it in all capital letters, the unwoke person is going to think that that's my name in all capital letters, but they're lying. And now they're being cross-examined against what they know is the truth or think is the truth. But when you know the truth and you know how to defend yourself and use words the right way and use the written word properly to defend yourself, and you understand how to stay in honor by conditionally accepting, then you don't have to worry about being cross-examined. And I can, when a cop asks me questions that I don't want to answer, I conditionally accept his offer. Questions or offers. I say, yes, I'll answer that question for $10,000 cash up front. In fact, I have a fee schedule for all the offers you're going to make me. I'm ready to conditionally accept all of your offers for my fee schedule. Questions, $10,000 cash up front. Use of my name, $50,000 cash up front. You want to search my car? Yeah, $5,000 cash up front. Okay. You want me to get out of the car and do a test? Yeah, $5,000 cash up front. Here you go. I'm still an honor officer, and I've conditionally accepted all of your offers for my fee schedule. So you might want to go to the ATM. I'll wait right here. Now I'm in honor. I can't be hauled away. I haven't gone into dishonor because I've conditionally accepted their offer. And you can conditionally accept all offers throughout life. And when someone dishonors you by not conditionally accepting or accepting your offer, then you walk away from them because they are going into dishonor, and you don't want to deal with dishonorable people. You want to push dishonorable people out of your life. Like this person who ended my relationship with them. I asked them why, and they wouldn't tell me. And but I know what the reason was, but they wouldn't tell me. I just wanted them to say it because I was being third party by people following my posts on Facebook. But they wouldn't say it, so they dishonored me. I said, well, when you're ready to tell me what the deal is, you can always call me. But now I've conditionally accepted their offer to end our relationship by asking why. And when they wouldn't tell me why, they went into dishonor and walked away because I asked them a question. Okay, fine. You want to end our relationship? Why? That's my question, my offer. Why? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, well, you're in dishonor. Have a good one. When you're ready to talk further, see ya. And that's it. No harm, no foul, no hurt feelings on my part because I'm in honor. That person has to go live in dishonor and be a dishonorable living soul, not even understanding that they're in dishonor or why, because they're not woke. And I guarantee you and a lot of us out there who are woke and who understand these things are now being surrounded by a bunch of dishonorable people who are not accepting what we feel is the truth. They're not even conditionally accepting it. Like, I don't think the world is a spinning globe zooming through the universe at millions of miles an hour. Oh, really? What are you on, drugs? You wearing a tinfoil hat? You're crazy. Really? Why? Just go look at NASA. No, tell me why. It says in the Bible, we're in a firmament between waters. I called NASA. They have no video footage of the Earth spinning on its axis out in space. So you tell me why I'm crazy. You tell me I'm not taking medication. Where are you getting the idea I'm taking medication from or wearing a tinfoil hat? Oh, well, I don't have to answer that. Okay, well, you can go into dishonor by not conditionally accepting my offer for more information. So you can stay in honor by conditionally accepting, by either asking questions or making a conditional acceptance by, okay, well, I'll believe we're on a spinning globe when NASA can give me the footage of the Earth actually spinning out in space on its axis. Then I'll believe it. Okay, that's my conditional acceptance. So understanding these little things can help empower us to take control and responsibility over our lives and our relationships. And it's up to us to teach everybody. You got to spread this video far and wide. The audience has to spread it far and wide, share it, because these nuggets of truth you're not going to learn in school. And if you don't learn them, you're going to be condemned to being an imbecile and irresponsible and dishonorable and a slave. And that's what's killing our planet or our reality right now.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I feel like that we have, and I'm guilty of this myself. Like I said earlier, just sort of kind of knowing something's not right, but just sort of pushing it off. And now we're at a point where it's like, wait a second, we cannot be lazy people. We have to put on our courage suit. We have to be warriors here. We have to arm ourselves with knowledge. And the big thing that you talked about earlier too was the fear. We have to face this fear of what is being pushed to us. It's the only way that this part of consciousness that we're experiencing is driving the slave mentality. It's all through fear. So when we arm ourselves with knowledge, like you were talking about earlier, knowing all of this stuff, studying words, it doesn't take much. You could just look up a couple words a day in the etymology dictionary, words of the day. What's the word of the day? Say politician, or, electoral or whatever, like whatever words come up, look what those mean. You like the word politician. It's crazy. The word pole, it's a pole, meaning like polarity, one end or the other, right? We have left, we have right. That's what a politician does, you know? So it goes much deeper than that. But I mean, you can see how we are being used and polarized through the left and right paradigm of the brain, and why they're keeping us this way by using terms and terminologies when we are going to rise and become a deeper, much higher aware consciousness. And that's just not for now. We're talking about going centuries, millennia into the future. We really want to start now to preserve what we have going on consciously from light and love, and work our way up. So all of our children and children, all will have, have a nice, abundant life, not having to go through these types of turmoil. So, but we have to be courageous. We got to be warriors. We can't be afraid to talk about it either. Because at first I was kind of, nervous about talking about things like this, and I got to the point, I'm like, man, this is ridiculous to even think like that. We need to get the information out. We need to study more, arm ourselves with this knowledge, and share it far, as much as we possibly can, and figure out how to do that. And if everyone did that, change.
The more we do it, the better we'll get at it too. It's like the first time when you do something that you're scared to do, like jumping off a cliff into the water. It's fun after you do it that one time, you're afraid, you jump off the cliff, you go into the water, and you're like, wow, that was fun and exhilarating. I'm going to do that again. So the more and more you stand up for yourself and take responsibility and kick away fear and overcome that by just pushing forward and going through that wall of fear and doing what you were scared to do, it becomes easier and easier and easier to do it in every aspect of life. And when you do look up words, everybody's got a cell phone now. You don't even need to go buy a dictionary. Just go to look up these words that you question, look them up in Black's Law Dictionary, because Black's Law Dictionary is legal English. And that will tell you the highest legal meaning of that word. And depending on who's using that word, you're going to realize, oh, geez, they're using this word for some nefarious, covert way to program my mind with more fear. I thought the word meant this in formal English, and even this in slang English, but in legal English, it means this, and oh my God, that changes everything. So once you start learning and knowing what words really mean and how to use them, then you're going to lose even more fear. It takes diligence. You have to be thinking, when I was growing up playing sports, the adage is you got to eat, sleep, and think baseball. If I wanted to be a professional baseball player, I needed to eat, sleep, and think baseball. Meaning I got to be walking around thinking about my mechanics of my swing or my pitching, my throwing. When I'm sitting at the dinner table, I'm eating, but I'm shoving dead cooked animals into my face. And at the same time, I'm thinking about, I need to be backing up third base on a ball to the outfield with a runner on second. When I'm sleeping at night, I've been thinking about it all day, and I'm dreaming about hitting a home run with the bases loaded, or striking out that dude in a tense situation with the bases loaded. I'm eating, sleeping, and thinking baseball. Well, it's the same with sovereignty and freedom. You got to be going over these conversations that you might have with police or judges or so-called authorities in your mind. You got to be thinking about, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be doing, you're eating, I'm going to be doing my paperwork tomorrow for my sovereignty. Yeah, and then I'm going to mail it down to the treasury. All right, I'm done eating. I'm going to sleep. I'm sleeping and dreaming about being a sovereign, and the police knocking on my door saying, oh, is Ronald Farnham there? Where'd you get that name? You need to go away. You need to pay me $10,000 for the use of my name. I'm dreaming it. I'm eating, sleeping, dreaming, thinking baseball or sovereignty or whatever it is. We have to start devoting ourselves to freedom, sovereignty, and taking responsibility, because when you accept the blessings and privileges of being a citizen/slave, then you're not taking responsibility for your own life. And then that's going to lead to fear, because if you don't know how to take responsibility, fear comes from the unknown. And if you don't know how to be responsible, then you're going to be fearful. If you don't know how to talk to the police or policy enforcers when they pull you over, then you're going to be fearful. You're not going to really know how to keep yourself out of handcuffs and having your money taken away and being thrown into a cell. You don't know. until you start practicing it all the time in your head. I drive down the road and sometimes I wish I would get pulled over so I can use some of this information so I can make another cop walk back to his car and drive away, having no power over me, because I've let him know that I know he's a racketeer and a Freemason, and he's using legal English. And if he wants me to conditionally accept anything, and I'm going to, he's going to have to pay me up front and write a contract with his name on it. It's business. All these people are doing business, and it's business. They're killing us with their own business. Donald Trump bought 300 million needles with our tax money, with your federal tax money. And now you've paid for these poisons that are getting injected into your body. So you unwittingly, going into contract with the US of A Corporation, have gone into this whole system where you're poisoning yourselves to death with your own money, and you paid for it because you're too fearful to understand and wake up to know how to defend yourself against tyranny. And that's where we stand right now. And that's what's killing. That's what's going to kill everybody. Ignorance.
Yeah, ignorance. And it's willful. I believe that a lot of it's willful ignorance as well. And this is the other thing too, is that I consider it to be a duty for people to understand these things. And the reason why is because when we start giving all of our energy in the way of taking jabs and all the stuff, we are giving our energy to the dark forces. Now, what's that is doing? It is affecting all of us people who are out here trying to defend freedom, trying to defend the living souls of this planet and see an abundant world begin to transform into what we are really truly meant to be here, right? And it's funny how it inverted it is, because you have all the people that are getting the jabs and wearing the mask and all this stuff that they're blaming the people like us that we're hurting them. And it's so inverted. Well, I'm like, well, wait a second here. You put something on your face, you can't breathe anything. You're restricting oxygen. You're breathing all your own nastiness going in and out. Number one, proven, a cancer causing proven thing, that lack of oxygen creates cancer, especially a high acidic body. Okay. And on top of that, you're getting experimental mRNA gene therapy, that's never, according to them, really been tested. And it's only in its third trial. It's like, we got a long ways to go. Why? But why should I be subject to that? My kids be subject to that? All my friends and family are like, no, I have personal autonomy. I choose definitely not to do this. I think I want to get vitamin D. I want to eat healthy. I want to exercise. I want to do what I know is actual real health here. You know what I mean? And show people that that is really what you do to be healthy, not inject poison into your body. It's so funny how inverted it's really gotten, but that's where we are. And I guess that's why we're here talking and having this conversation, partly is to help push this direction and help, more people become aware of what's happening, and really help influence people to go really look these things up. All the stuff that you mentioned, David Wynn Miller, I'm going to go look that guy up. Black's Law Dictionary. I saw that too. I want to look into that. Get this book right here, everybody. Please get this book. This is going to teach you everything that Ron was just talking about, and then some.
And if you get the book, I will email anyone who gets the book. My email address is in there. You email me and I'll send you the documents and instructions, so you don't have to type up those documents in the book, because all the documents for freedom are in there, and sovereignty. But I've also got them on my computer. You email me, and I get emails every day or every week from people who are getting the book and say, hey, will you email me the documents? I just got your book. Yeah, sure, no problem. And I send them the first steps, the first 3 or 4 documents that you fill out, notarize, sign, or autograph and record, so that now you're a sovereign. And then I give you the documents for the second major step, sending your birth certificate down to the Treasury and becoming a secure party, AKA, or also known as a creditor. Right now, everyone's debtors. So if you do get the book, and email me at the ronaldshow2011@gmail, and just put subject line, sovereignty documents or whatever. So I'll know, and I open it up. And you're like, hey, can you please send me the documents? Yes. And I've got them all ready to go. It's just a couple of clicks. There you go. Boom. I copy and paste the directions in there. I attach the documents, and then there you go. And you print them out, file them, and become sovereign. And then spread it to everybody. Just send the documents, even if you're just sending the documents. If we can have a wave of sovereign woke people that aren't going to show up to their courts and that they have no control over, then they're going to lose, because we're going to win because we've become responsible as a society or as a group of living souls. So yeah,
Right, exactly. And then the more that we understand this, we do actually become real, upstanding, responsible, sovereign, living souls. And we're this world that we're living in that tells us that we need to have all these authorities to tell us what to do and how fast to drive and all this stuff. This is just telling the subconscious mind that we're little babies, little children that need to be told what to do. And that's not what we are. We're adults. We're fully grown adults who have full responsibility for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for humanity. And why would we ever want to go out and cause any harm to anybody? Now, I do, the argument there for a lot of people is, well, there's a lot of criminals out there and they cause harm. I believe that there is a place for these things, right? There's a place for these authority kind of areas, but ultimately in the future, where I really see us going is we don't need to have any of that. Like really, when we get to this conscious place in humanity, where we're jumping up in higher awarenesses, and we're really establishing this love and compassion, not just for ourselves, but for humanity in general, that these things aren't really going to be necessary. Right now, I think most of the wars that ever been, actually every war that's ever been, that's ever happened, most of these riots and things that you see, they're mostly staged. I mean, these aren't really real people that are going out there causing problems. They're staged to make everyone think that other human beings are a problem and that we need to have all of this authority to protect us. But in the long run, that's not really what that's there for anyways. It's there to protect these elite type power groups, and an ultimate martial law situation is to guess where these authorities are going to be going. The ones that were supposed to protect you, they're going to be knocking down your door, rolling down your street in freaking tanks and telling you what to do and causing harm to you. That's ultimately what they have the power to do. So why would anybody want to give power to that, right? We need to take the power back to ourselves. So anyways, Ron, I guess we should wrap it up. I think we've been going on for a little while now. This was a really good talk. I had a lot of questions for you, and I felt like it turned into more of a conversation. But I think it was a really good conversation, man.
Well, what questions did you have? Or are you running out of battery power or what?
Yeah, I'm getting low on the battery because I don't have the cord. And Phoenix has got gymnastics coming up here too as well, so I got to get things going. But
our next interview, which I think we need to do it again, because I love how we do this. You and I have a conversation, but next time we'll stick to your questions and we'll knock those out, because I'm sure they're very important. So let's do that. Let's maybe next week or in a few days we'll have another show, and then ask me all the questions and we'll go through it, because I'm sure that people want to know.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you really did touch on a lot of this stuff that you have in your book, and I just had more specific stuff. Like, we had a good conversation the last podcast that we did. We actually had some people come back, and people were writing me, go, man, that was a really good show, very informative. So in an effort to keep things rolling and keep the information still going out there, even though some of it is repetitive, it's like, you cannot repeat this enough. Like, we could be talking about this every other day for years, and it's like, it just needs to happen so people can slowly understand that they need to get out of this idea that they're stuck and they're in chains and they can't go anywhere. That no, you break the chains, you can fly. And I want to repeat that message, not this repeated messages you hear on the mainstream sources, which I don't listen to anymore anyways. I don't listen to most of the stuff I hear. My dad, he still gets up in the morning and watches it, and he'll call me up, be like, Logan, I just watched a few minutes, I know it's all lies and garbage, but can you believe they're doing this? Can you believe that? I'm like, well, yeah, I believe they're doing that. Get this. So just a small example before we get off here. He calls me up and he goes, can you believe I was listening to such and such on CNN, and they said the Delta variant spreading like wildfire, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs. I said, Dad, every word that they say is meticulously written down. See how she said wildfire? Wildfire is one of those terms that just goes right into the imagination of the person, and it just goes into subconscious, and it's just so imaginary. And he goes, Logan, that's funny you said that, because what the clip right before she came out and said that was the California wildfires. I said, case in point, they do this very specifically to lock in your brain. So subconsciously, you have no idea what's going on. Once you know the script and you know it's a script, you can pull all those things out of there very easily, just like the words we're talking about here. Once you study words enough, you'll be able to pull them right out and go, wow, you'll be able to decode the nefarious, languages that you're talking about and how they're being used. So very interesting. It's a very interesting thing, man. But Any last words, man? Any like words of, advice or any, anything that we could take?
No, just, everybody just needs to be diligent and start taking action now, sooner than later. Like you said, I mean, we don't have time to slowly wake up. You guys got to wake up now. And you keep doing what you're doing with your show. I'm glad that we become friends, and just keep up the good work. And I can't wait until the next show, because every time you and I start talking, I'm always thinking, dude, we need to be recording this, because this is information people need to hear. So tune into I Have the Heart. Tune into the Ronald Show 2011, and make sure, Logan, when you upload this to YouTube, upload it to Rumble and some other channels, and keep it safe on your hard drive, because YouTube's a censorship place. So I imagine once they get around to looking at it closely, they're going to take it down. So have a backup plan. I've started transitioning over to Rumble and BitChute too, so that when my videos get taken down, which they do, and I get blocked for like a week from YouTube, that I have a backup and I can share that link, because we got to be sharing all this data, sharing all this information. So
Roger that.
My words.
Good advice, man. Yeah, I have been backing up too on BitChute. I just started actually going through my older videos and starting to plug those things in alternative places too. So that's definitely really good advice. All right, man, I may be in touch with you, as far as this docu-series that we're talking about. I will plug that a little bit here. I'm going to hold myself accountable for this. And I'm not going to get into
production crew. I have clean sound too. You're going to want clean sound depending on what you're filming on. I have the Zoom H6 and a boom mic and stuff, and I got some cameras, and I can help you with editing.
If I could pay to rent that from you, that was one of my questions to you. I think I need the right technology, which I don't have. So if you're willing to rent that, that would be phenomenal.
That's fine. If you have a budget, I was just gonna, I believe in what you're doing, so it's not always about money.
Well, that's way. We'll talk about that off air, man. But yeah, I'll be in touch with you, because there was a part of the questions I had too. But I'm gonna hit the stop record button. And thanks again, man. This is awesome. Let's do this again sooner than later. All right, man.
Thanks, bro.
See you. All right, I gotta hit.